You know when you gotta like go check if HelloFresh is like the thing? Okay. All right, y'all. You're over here now. Welcome in. Yeah, what's going on, Morton? How you doing? Happy belated birthday and anniversary. Thank you so much, Carp. Yeah, we are 34 now, and Panda and I have been together for 10 years. 10 years. Absolutely insane. So what I figured we would do, what I figured we would do is get all the niceties out now. Can't wait to get back to review all the dude, the Spiritborn. When are you coming back, Trev? What's going on, Augusti? Let's just toss on some music while we're kind of chilling. It's always way too loud. All right, we'll put that down there for right now. Mic sounds great, by the way. Thank you. All right. So, you know, if you missed it, we had the opportunity to stream the Spiritborn live from Xbox Studio, which was kind of insane, if I'm going to be honest with you. It was such a cool experience. We're just going to be covering over my face right now, because why not? Put this above me. Also, shoutouts to HelloFresh. HelloFresh is a sponsor of the stream for this month. I'm actually really excited about this because I kind of wicked love HelloFresh. I've used HelloFresh a bunch of times myself. Now the promo that they're doing is for worldwide shipments. Anywhere you can get HelloFresh, this promo now works, which was something that wasn't the case the last time I did a HelloFresh campaign. You need centipede builds right now. Right now. Yeah, so what are people's first thoughts of the Spiritborn before we get into the live stream or the podcast? I'll be with Rax and Woody and Chronix. It's starting up in 22 minutes. Oh, do I have my little... Hold on. Not that. Hold on, was it over here? I gotta go find it.
You.
Yo, what's up, Violet? How are we doing? Not that one? Not that one? Not that one? Where is it? I made like a whole thing. All right, we'll go back over here and let me go try to find my picture. Not that one. 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 Here it is. So this is layer. Okay, so add image. Names. Browse. Downloads. Layer. And then hopefully everybody is just in the same place. And if not, I'll just scream. Thank you very much, Pilot. Appreciate you. Good to see you alive. Friday was insane. Looks awesome. The comboing of different spirits. The comboing of different spirits, I think, is actually too easy. Quite literally, I think it's too easy. First thought's not a paladin, don't care. Second thought, looks like a monk, which I don't like, but at least it's a cool monk. So, I'm sorry, is your first thought this isn't a paladin, so I don't care about this class? What up, Merrick? Yes, okay. Were you expecting a paladin? Even though, since they have revealed that there would be an expansion, they said we weren't getting a paladin. Or is it just that regardless of what they said, you are unhappy because it is not a paladin? I get wanting to have a paladin in the game, obviously, but I love this. It isn't deep or interesting, the reason why there aren't paladins. There just aren't paladins in the world. They don't exist. Like, the lore matters at some point. Why is it too easy? Right, so the class mechanic is, by clicking the class mechanic, all of your skills now fulfill all the requirements of all of your skills, which isn't, you would think that it's a puzzle, but it is not a puzzle. And I think that is literally too easy. Like, for me to change a single skill into a different skill, I need to use an entire aspect that requires me to sacrifice power on the Necromancer. The class mechanic of the Spiritborn is that all of its skills have whatever skill tag you want them to have for no cost. And my issue with that is that is too easy. Like, if it were an aspect that said, like, all your things are now whatever, sure. The puzzle is in the fact that there is an aspect which says that all of your skills now gain the tag of the secondary skill, or the secondary spirit that you choose. And I guess that's the sacrifice. But it's very, very cool. It makes me envious. Do I think they maybe made it too easy because you sacrifice item slots? That would be true if on other classes you legitimately chose to use 2 weapons instead of 1 weapon, or at least for the Necromancer. And the fact that that doesn't really change my initial comparison critique. Not an aspect, it's a unique helmet. That's the same thing as an aspect, because it takes up an aspect slot. But sure, thank you for the correction. Like, mathematically, and what you have to use to do it, that's the same. And it being a helmet is actually, like, kind of makes it easier. Because you're typically talking about a defensive or utility aspect in that slot. But yeah. But no, Paladin's just the only class that you want to see added. Do you want the game to spit in the face of the lore for the player base to be able to have that experience, or is that like not a concern? Like, would you be happy with getting a holy class that isn't a paladin? Or does it have to be a sword and board Zachamarite like thing? Because I'd like to really understand the if it's not paladin, I hate it, which is like a pretty it's like probably like the coldest take on the internet right now, and has been for a very long time, is this game isn't real until it has a paladin. And I've always been very intrigued by that mindset and very confused by it. But for the Spiritborn itself, I loved playing it. The class is insanely good. It's insanely strong. It's so dope. And I hope that the player base has like a realistic expectation of what the life cycle is probably going to look like for it. Because I think they want it to be exciting, so they don't want to nerf it off the bat. But I would assume that after the first season with it, it will hopefully attempt to be brought into line. And I don't think they're going to be able to nerf it enough to make that happen, because I think it's like class mechanics are so powerfully, like so naturally intricate and powerful, that I don't think they'll be able to succeed at it for a while.
LL finally fixed the stash problem? I liked season 4 so much I leveled 5 characters to 100, and stash is really a problem even though I have 7 mules.
CCD, thank you very much for the bits. Yeah, it's really funny. The idea was that the stash will now be empty because you don't need to put aspects in it. Except your stash has to be like hilariously full, because you need so many pieces of gear in case you brick something. And because that compounds per build you want to play, my stash is completely full with just one character, like one class. And I think it really points to it is the symptom of something, and merely having more stash tabs would not alleviate it, but it is the symptom of something. Like one part of it is still like a concentration of items in your inventory that don't need to all be there. Like your consumable stash is your sigils and your boss summoning materials and your elixirs. And like that's too much, right? Like that's just too many things. It could be something other than a little paladin. I want the sword and board fighter to me. Monks are a reflavor of rogue class as very different flavor with the spirits, and that's cool. I see a lot of people kind of talking about this. I want a sword and board, and that obviously makes sense, right? It's a very classic motif. For your particular standpoint, where it's like it doesn't need to be a holy class per se, although most people are literally like it has to be the paladin. In this story, so somebody asked about the Crusader in Diablo 3. The Crusader, the idea of the Crusader is that you are like a last of your kind, are you not? Like, what is the story of the Crusaders? And this is me showing my ignorance. Crusader Diablo 3 wiki. What is the lore of the Crusader in Diablo 3? Oh, there is Zakarum. They pray to Akarat. Are they Zakarum? What's your thoughts on the stat squish? Do you think the casual play base is going to be upset with smaller numbers? What are my thoughts on people speculating that there will be a stat squish based off of level 30 limited gameplay in a developer build for the Spiritborn? What are my thoughts about that? One, it's pure speculation. Two, I think it's very interesting. The numbers don't matter, right? The numbers don't matter at all. What the number is doesn't matter. All you need to do is learn your new reference point for the new numbers. And the game needs to come down because they made it a system of multipliers, so all the numbers get too high. And the issue is if you add 1 to 2 more multipliers to any side, the difference becomes so large that it's unmanageable and unbalanceable. So I think that the numbers just need to come down. Do I think the casual will be able to understand that? Not until they start playing the game, and not until they not until they start playing the game, because it really just depends on how it feels. That's like, if I'm doing 1,000 damage now, but the monsters have 1/10 of their life, it doesn't matter, right? You need to feel the gameplay. You need to experience the gameplay. And then the casual player base will know how they feel about it. What will happen is, as long as the people who are in the know properly communicate it, and we are given a reference point for the relative change, then we can have reactions. Like then we can have opinions about it. All the numbers could be cut down to 1/10. to me, it does not matter what the numbers are. Logs, Rips, BM Hola. Thank you very much for the follows. Just because I'm gonna be. I haven't done a sponsorship in a very long time.
Awesome.
Thank you very much, Greybush. I appreciate you for the 2 months. Thank you. I haven't done a sponsorship in a while. After the podcast, we're actually going to do a quick spot on HelloFresh, and y'all are going to help me order the box that I'm going to get home and hopefully do a live stream of me cooking it. I've never done that before. I've never really done a live stream before. So I hope people are excited about it. But shouts to HelloFresh for sponsoring the channel. They're like one of my favorite brands to work with because the food is just like good, and it does offer a fairly like awesome option for people who can't afford it and who are like me, who like just suck at buying groceries and stuff. So I like full-throated endorse this product. I very much like it. But we're going to be doing a spot on that after the podcast. But shouts to HelloFresh. Look at that thing over there. It's in the description. It's in the description on YouTube, and ! HelloFresh on Twitch as well. Death Knight. Would Death Knights really fit in this world? Not really. They don't really fit into the lore. They're cool, but they don't really fit into the lore. The major issue with Paladins as it stands right now is I'm pretty sure the Zakarum faith is completely gone. Crusaders and Paladins don't exist anymore. It doesn't make sense for them to be in the game world. The only Paladin that we could get would be from the Cult of Inarius, the Church of Inarius, the Cathedral of Light. And that's what I thought we were going to get as the first class. But I really like the fact that they're going with a completely brand new thing in this world. Because what I find funny is, simultaneously, part of the player base just wants Diablo to just do what Diablo's been doing this entire time and doesn't want anything new, just wants pure nostalgia, just wants the things that they enjoy, which is not wrong, right? It's a franchise. You come to understand that from playing multiple games in a series in a franchise. While simultaneously, the moment that they do anything from any of the previous games, the developers get laughed at and said, Kick W, you're just copying this. Like, you're just copying it from another game. Or, this is just Diablo 3. The developers can't win. Like, they cannot win. If they do something new, they get made fun of. If they just do an old thing, they get made fun of. And I think that they have shown time and time again that they are willing to take what was good and find a way to bring it into Diablo 4. So I'm really glad that they made a hard stance on our first new class to the game will be a new addition to the franchise. I think that's a very good choice. What up? Hey, you Christo? How you doing? Do you think you'll play PoE? I'll play PoE 2 when it comes out for sure. What do I enjoy more, Last Epoch or Torchlight Infinite? I enjoyed Torchlight Infinite more, although I think Last Epoch has a more traditional ARPG feel for people who are looking for that. So I think a lot of people will prefer Last Epoch just because it's so much more a Diablo clone with like new age considerations for progression, whereas Torchlight Infinite is clearly a mobile first like hyper system game that is a bit less approachable. But I like playing Torchlight Infinite more. I like the combat more. Blood Knights are kind of a thing, sure. Thank you again, Greybush. Appreciate the support. Winter's coming. Thank you very much for the follow. What's going to be the best Spiritborn combo, and why is it Centipede Jaguar? What's going to be the best? Nobody knows what's going to be the best. Centipede is currently very strong. I think that there's a lot of power in Gorilla and just how unkillable you are. And the fact that basically what you need to do is you need to pick activators. You need to pick activators and then very strong skills. Like on Eagle, I picked up the Centipede basic, be able to apply poison to gain access to life leech and DR, and just have a better generator and a faster generator. And it's just like, is my build now Eagle, Jaguar, Centipede? No, I'm just using the Centipede basic. I think it's going to be very hard to discuss Spiritborn builds because, like, what do you refer them as? I've never played Grim Dawn, no. Podcast is in 4 minutes. Should probably be in a call, honestly. Yeah. Team Monkey. I'm big on Monkey. Monkey has so many things that just say use a monkey skill, become unkillable. And that's just very, very strong. Also, resolve is kind of insane. It's just 20 DR as long as you have a resolve stack up. Also, it's hard to understand the mechanics of it right now, but all of the things that say take your thorns and apply them as damage is a very cool system that we'll need to kind of break down and understand, I think. I think those numbers will get kind of ridiculous very quickly. And I'm excited to see what that kind of looks like. All right, be good, Trev. Anything spirit board that leads you to the hope speculate that they will do overhauls for the other classes? I think all the classes are going to see fairly significant changes walking into the expansion. They have to. I definitely think that the Necromancer and the Barb will get alternative ways of activating their thorns. I expect thorns to kind of have a unique application per class that can use it. If it's all just the same, then it kind of doesn't matter. Eagle is generally like vulnerable CC and mobility. Jaguar is like mobility and damage with ramping attack speed and crit. Centipede is life leech and damage over time. And then Gorilla is do big punch, get big barrier. Also big thorns. Let's go ahead and get set up for the stream.
Yo.
Yo, 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 yo.
Ta-da.
Gotta swap over to push to talk. Let's go.
Oh, you are in the correct spot. Let's see for how long that's gonna be the case. Oh, long time no see, Meg. How's it going?
Yeah, long. We definitely weren't just in a call desperately trying to make it so I don't sound like a horrid robot this time.
We tried.
Woody in the cut.
Hey guys,
Hey, Woody.
how's it going?
You know, tired.
Okay.
It's going great so far.
How did you
How's it
get
going?
home, by the way, Macro? I know you also had trouble and stuff.
That's what I wanted to ask right now, yeah.
Yeah, I ended up getting back home around like 5 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. I took a 3-hour nap and then we drove out to my anniversary.
Okay. Oof. How did that go, though? Did you like it?
Oh yeah, it was wonderful. I had my first ever massage. I've never had a massage before. That was super cool. I recommend them. They're the best thing that you can
Your
do.
first ever massage.
Yes, sir.
You waited quite a while. How do you like it?
Oh, it was awesome. It was like super cool. We did like a couple, so it was like both of us in the room and the two massage therapists. They were super chill. They told me to drink water because they got all the toxins out of my body.
Yes. That's
I
cool.
actually schedule a massage appointment for the days after the race. Call me crazy if you want, but that's literally what I'm doing. Because after sitting here for 28 hours straight, my body is KO. I need to do that afterwards. But I feel
Well, as long as you kill all the bosses
refreshed.
before that, you're good. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. I'll just delay it by one more day. It has worked out so far always.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, magic again. Everyone is in the correct spot. Hi, Rex.
Perfect.
Hey guys, how are you?
I'm doing
Can you hear me?
very
Hello?
badly,
Yes, sir.
actually.
You're doing very badly. Why?
I feel like I'm sick a bit. So I'm not sure
Oh,
what
yeah.
happened.
I think
People told me
Sarah
it was
has.
Sarah.
Yeah, Sarah, I
Yeah,
think
but-
has a fever and she has COVID, but she was not sick when we were there, but she got something.
Yeah, so shit. Yeah, I think
Lydia
actually for me it
Stella?
was like maybe some food I ate yesterday or today or something, but maybe
Yeah.
not.
If people
the
can give me
disease,
feedback
Scorpio.
on what they sound like.
But yeah, we'll see, I guess.
Dude, on the actual flight, there were 3 girls behind me. And every second you just hear me like I was like, I'm stuck in this tube with you for 6 hours. Please do not get me sick. And I think luckily I haven't gotten anything.
Yeah, us gamers go out for just one time a year. Everyone gets sick.
Yeah, I mean we're like Bubble Boy. We don't have an immune system because we never go outside. I mean, it's one germ and then that's it. You're dead.
Have you heard DM lately? I think he's recovered now, but he made a
Oh,
little
yeah, man.
funny video. The voice killed me. It was so good when he came back from the Spiritborn thing
Oh,
on the
boy.
12th, and it got him real good. And he sounded like completely different. Like you would have thrown him into an AI voice generator and turned down the depth of his voice to like absolute maximum. It's crazy. You wouldn't you wouldn't imagine it's DM if you wouldn't see the person talking.
Okay, holy shit. Hope he's fine now.
Yeah, he's fine now. Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, now I can see it in your eyes a little bit, Woody. You're half here. You're half asleep in your bed and you're half here.
Yeah, I definitely need to lie down later. It's what it is. So we got a blast, you know. You do what you gotta do, and then we can rest later.
Someone give him a cucumber.
Yeah, I could really need one.
Meg, your background is flipped, but your shirt is okay.
Every time. What do you leave me how? All right, hold on.
Before we start, maybe we do a quick sound check for everybody just to make sure the settings should still be fine from last time. While we're waiting for Meg, maybe Woody, you start.
Hey, and this is Macro Boy. I was enjoying the Cookie Monster hoodie. I like the plethora of blue hoodies that you have.
Okay, and that's Chronix 123. Normal speaking voice, blue hoodie, Cookie Monster. Test.
People keep saying that macro is lower relative to the other people, at least on my end.
Yeah. So we can bump me up a little bit. We're trying our best. Hey, everybody. Oddly enough, we heard the feedback that my microphone sounded like hot garbage.
Actually, hold on. Wait, I had you at 84. Now I have you at 100. My bad.
Alrighty. I'm gonna continue to talk just real quick. Hopefully Chronix doesn't have to touch anything, because this is how we get not garbage sounding Macro Boy.
I think everything is good on my end, at least.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Wonderful. So then let's start with the Max Roll Spiritborn podcast, although we're going to cover a little bit more than just the Spiritborn, but that's going to be at least the first topic. We're going to start with the general feel and the build and combo potential that the Spiritborn brings with it and that we have seen during the content reveal. And I also wanted to talk about the co-op endgame activity, our wishes and ideas for the Dark Citadel. We actually have seen the name in some of the screenshots while hovering over some items. Then we're going to discuss the newly found level 60 screenshot with the little 1 in the bracket. So maybe a new level cap or possible consequences stemming from that screenshot. And we also want to know a little bit more about the trip to Seattle in general for the boys. And then at the end, we are also going to go quickly into some chat questions. Maybe very brief introduction. I think by now everybody knows you quite well. Maybe Mac, will you start us out, then Woody, and then Rex?
My name is Macrobio Boy. I'm the undefeated pool table casual game during a live stream versus Sarah bracket. We ran a single competition. I was very excited. Just barely got a win there. Hopefully people heard it live.
Okay, so for me, yeah, sorry. Yeah, I'm Booty. I blast a lot of RPGs, especially D4, and I am the team lead for the D4 team on Maxroll. And I like a lot of Rogue and Spiritborn.
And Spiritborn.
My name is Rex. I wear a blue hoodie. I play all the ARPGs, and I play them not very well.
That's definitely not true. Gotta call him out on that one. So let's directly start out with, well, maybe I should say I'm Chronix. I'm part of the D4 Guide Rider team, specifically for the Necromancers as well for Maxroll. And let's jump straight in. Spiritborn, general feeling. What are your first impressions? Woody, you said you're going to play a lot of Spiritborn right now. Maybe you start us off on that one.
Well, my general impressions. I mean, if you have played Diablo 3, then you're gonna recognize the monk feel from that class. I think it's, the the kind of like mocking like terms like jungle monk definitely feel like they're just about right for this class. And it's very fast, very agile. It has like these triple hit combos built into multiple effects, actually, not just the basic attacks. And yeah, it's very like combo heavy as well. Not in the sense that you have to press like many buttons necessarily, but like you can combine, certain scaling mechanisms. You can, combine the different spirits that it has and, build around those effects that it give you. And I think that really makes for a lot of like variety in the playstyle that will be appreciated by a lot of people, especially myself, liking like to theory craft a lot of builds. So, I'm going to be busy very long for this.
Yeah, the thing for me about the Spiritborn that is the reason to be excited about it and it like going forward is it kind of reminds me of how the Druid was in the beginning, where a lot of the uniques and the different legendary powers enable you to do a lot of theory crafting, because you can make everything a gorilla skill or a jaguar skill or whatever. And there's going to be some really ultimate combinations that just give you infinite sustain and resources and staying alive, doing crazy damage. Once we dive in there and figure them all out, it's going to be pretty insane. One kind of like insider piece of info that I got from talking to some of the devs who have played more Spiritborn on like further builds and know a lot more than we do, is they said once you unlock a lot of the uniques later on in the game that we haven't seen, they really, really enable the Spiritborn to do some crazy things. So all of the different possibilities with its class mechanic and the uniques is going to give like theory crafters everything that they ever wanted. Before I walked in, I was hoping that the Spiritborn would be like a combination of the Diablo 3 monk and the WoW shaman. I'm not getting any WoW shaman vibes at all, which is sad, but I think the monk style and the way that it was presented is good enough for me to be very interested in it for a very long time.
That's actually very interesting, and I'm not about to explain to Rex how he feels about the shaman. I think there are a lot of skills on the Spiritborn that are akin to it being a spellcaster, which like it had a lot of that like elementalism vibe to me. Like you saw Woody's the combination of like the razor wing attack and the counter attack from Jaguar, which says as long as you have your counter attack up, they will infinitely like spin back off of you. And I don't know, there was something like very like almost like lightning storm-ish to that for me, but with bird feathers as opposed to lightning effects. But I mean, the class is cracked out of its gourd. I'm pretty excited for the first time that somebody says to me, but what if I just want to play a pure gorilla build? How come you will never make just a pure gorilla build? And it's because the class is a hybrid. Like I have no idea how we're going to refer to different builds on this class. Like, oh, mine's the primary Jaguar, sub Eagle, using poison, centipede alt, Thorns Fort Jaguar. That one's mine. That's how I'm building. Like how are we going to refer to these things?
You
But
got your little corner of the theory crafting
yeah,
builds there.
yeah,
So-
it's just gonna have ridiculous names. Like we're gonna be using like Supermax Plus Jaguar. But I'm like the thing's great. I think everybody walking into the expansion is also going to be a Spiritborn guide writer. Like you're going to see so many people playing this thing and trying to crack it and all the different things that you can do with it. It's also kind of cool because since they have two specific weapon types that no other classes have, they have this design space where their unique weapons can be very, very powerful and transformative for them because they don't have to consider any other classes using them. And I think that's also pretty exciting from my outlook.
Yeah, I was very confused when I saw the Spiritborn actually only having the one weapon and still having that little box on the right side below the jewelry basically. And I was, for a second, I hoped that you could also dual wield and therefore also get some variety that way. But it's literally only the staffs, and then you have the quarter staffs and the
Glaives.
glaives, right? So it's
and polearms,
basically
actually. Polearms are also there.
okay. So you share these three things then, but they're basically the same thing. It's just about the different implicit then, from what I've understood, right? It's not like you can actually mix
Yeah,
and
pretty
match some form of attack speed difference
I mean-
like we had with the focus main hand offhand
We don't
versus
know
two-hand
yet, but there
stuff, right?
might actually be stuff like, let's say, in the glyphs or the paragons, for example, like Barb has that, where okay, you wield an axe, you get this; you wield a mace, you get that, and maybe there's also like some more distinction coming later in the paragons. But yeah, I think personally, it's kind of cool that they made like a two-hand only class. It kind of goes well with the theme, I believe, and it just feels very cool having a two-handed weapon. To be honest, I like it. So that's amazing.
The other cool part about it is that the quarterstaff comes with inherent block chance or modifies block in some way. And that was something that when I was talking with Bjorn, Bjorn is like the lead class designer for Spiritborn. You saw him on some of our live streams if you tuned in. Bjorn's super great. Also, all the devs were phenomenal. I know we'll get into it later, but like top tier nerds, they had answers for every question that I had. Like they schooled me on lore. The people working on this expansion are like the best of the best of the best. But I was talking with them and I sat down and I realized, I was like, wait a minute. How does this class even benefit from block? Oh, wait, block is just the chance to block, and then the shield gives you damage reduction based off of your block chance. That's completely separate. Like that's a stat on the shield, and that's the only place that we've seen it thus far. So now that they're bringing block as just a concept to the game, and the quarterstaff will modify how block works for you, like definitely opens up places where like aspects can touch on your block chance and how block works. Your paragon can have nodes that say, bonus based off your block chance at the time, because even one of your skills gives you 100% block chance for a certain amount of time. And then you can use that to increase your damage. There's like an 8.6 multi on a two-hander right now if they don't change the numbers, which I'm not going to freak out about just yet. But like, I don't know, man. There's so much that they're opening up just by adding this class in and having it have to work in the coding logic of the game. And that's one of the things I'm more excited for is what does this mean for the rest of the game and the other classes and what they get to do.
Yeah, so just to reiterate something that Macro just said, so you have the possibilities of changing the tags on your skills to interact with different things. So you're like customizing your character in terms of the actual build. But one thing that I saw a lot more, I mean, there must be other examples in Diablo 4, but nowhere near as many as I've seen on the Spiritborn class. It's like if you stack armor, there are ways to convert that to damage. If you stack block, there are ways to convert that into damage. So there are so many different possibilities that we've been screaming, pretty much everyone in the community, except I think even the people that don't play the game very often, most people have wanted an expansion of the skill tree. We need a little bit more complexity than nothing. So we are getting more complexity, at least in the systems that we saw in the demo, where you can't just think about it as offense and defense. You have to think about it in terms of how do they actually connect with each other. To me, this is much more fun and much better for the game. And in talking to one of the devs about, I can't remember what topic, one thing that they said is they're not trying to keep Diablo 4 as simple as it is right now. They are trying to build some layers into it. I can't tell you what a relief for me it was to hear that from them for like the direction of the team, because it is great to bring in the casuals. It is great to appeal to the masses, but Diablo 4 needs some more in a lot of its different systems, in my opinion.
Yeah, when
Yeah, I
I
don't-
go ahead,
Oh.
Woody. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to chime in about the complexity, especially of the skill tree. I know that a lot of people are upset at that, but I think it's fine to have the skill tree kind of like work as it does, as long as there's more complexity later on, right? And they tried to build that with the Paragons, but that was not really like, enough, I guess. We had like some seasons in the past, like season 2 with the vampire theme, where we had like, for example, the vampire powers, and that was like a really well-received season, right? Because you had like these extra powers that are basically just like 5 extra legendary aspect slots, right? But they were kind of cool. They had like varying costs and like potential in some combos. And there was like some extra complexity added during that season at least, and then kind of like we didn't really have anything like it again. But if they add more systems, not necessarily just like expand the skill tree, but there's something else that comes beyond the Paragons, beyond the skill tree, and something like those vampiric powers, for example. I think they can definitely like open up the build diversity and make it more interesting for everyone, and without really like shying away the casual players that log in, start a fresh season, and they see the skill tree. And I guess that's like one of the big strengths, that it's so welcoming with the skill tree. It's like, okay, you go down category by category, and it is fairly simple, but then there's also still like this min-maxing you can do, and then there's other systems on top of it, which is very nice.
Yeah, at the beginning of D4, I was actually bummed out a little bit that it seems seemingly a little bit too easy. But when you then thought about it, it is actually, in my opinion, a very smart move, delaying that effect of, for example, when you first time open your skill tree in Path of Exile, right? Like maybe 2 or 5% of the people, or a very minuscule amount, goes like, oh wow, that's cool, but more than 90% just goes, oh no, I don't want to deal with this, right? And delaying that moment to a further later date, after people have already invested and gotten familiar with the game, I think was a very smart move. But as Woody just said, we need something on top. We've talked about this in the last podcast as well. Like just one more little, and not even one more, but maybe multiple other little systems that build on top of that, and they don't even have to be present at absolute level 1, right? They can come later, and I just hope that we're going to move more in that direction now, because I think it's just a smart move of actually getting or keeping players in your game, right? And I'm also, you said the skill tree system, you wanted to keep it how it is. I'm a little bit going forward in the topic list here a little bit, but we saw the screenshot. There were some skill points, and it showed 69 skill points.
Nice.
And exactly. And maybe that is actually the added complexity on top of everything else, right? If we have another layer of complexity added in the skill tree, we obviously also need some more passive skill points. How do you think about that?
So so from what we've seen, what people have broken down, right, is the character was at max level at 60. It was like gold, and then it had 69 skill points. So theoretically, something is coming down the line. Whether or not that's what they were testing there, or something that's going to be in the expansion, obviously, like none of us can like really know or speak on. But let's assume that it's just true. It's just real. We already know that they want to add more skills to each class's skill tree. And if you look at the skill tree of this Spiritborn, like if you go back down and look through it, the number of like modifying passives that kind of work for everything, as opposed to your bleed, crit damage, do 8% more vulnerable, like whatever it is, were significantly like bolstered. Like there was just more of them. And then on top of that, when you got down towards like the final nodes, the ultimate modifying passives was like its own skill tree, just kind of shooting off the side of the node. There was like 9 different options with 3 different paths to go down that just modified what happened when you used an ultimate skill. I'm expecting for us to see some of that kind of like retrospectively modifying what the current classes look like. And then on top of that, we literally would need more skill points for it to be like interesting that they would add more stuff. So I think that kind of coincides. I think it's coming. It makes sense. And my only fear is that it's just going to give us like a different spender on the other classes. And we're going to have to wait a long time before we see anything as cool as the Spiritborn skill tree.
The thing for me, even before going to the event and talking to the devs, which they have shared some of their like future plans with us that we cannot speak about today. But even before going in, think about, what do we know about the expansion? Okay, we know how much it costs, and we know the release date, and we know that there's a Spiritborn class. In no universe do I think that that's all that they have for us. I was genuinely expecting there to be a bunch of other things, not just new additions to the game, but reworks of current systems. You can see that there's a lot of systems in the game that Blizzard is not happy with, and the reason why you know that is because they changed it 5 times during the course of the first year. For example, we're talking about, we think the level cap is 60, and then we're building something up after that. How many times have they tried to adjust leveling up? Like, it used to be like a 140-hour arduous journey that nobody liked. So if they want to cap it at 60, was that the original cap of World of Warcraft? Seems like they're like drawing on inspiration that they've done in other games and making some changes. I'm also expecting systems that have had very little changes, like the Paragon system. The Paragon system, other than changing some multiplicative here or there, it really hasn't been iterated on at all.
Right.
And the Paragon is like, it's kind of like an illusion, right? If you gave me, Macro, and Woody a planner, and you said, go make a Centipede Spiritborn in a locked room, you got 1 hour to do it, and then we presented it to Blizzard, the variance on the Paragon boards themselves and the glyphs that we took would be so minor. You could take any of our builds and swap out the Paragon boards, and it would have almost no impact because it's just an illusion of choice. You pick the couple legendary nodes that you need, you path to the glyphs, you pump the glyphs, and that's essentially it for almost every class. So this is all to say, I'm expecting there to be more announcements that Blizzard is kind of holding back about the expansion. We don't even know anything about it yet in the public eye. So I want to see what they've actually got.
Yeah, kind of same here as well. I mean, as you said, we know some things that unfortunately we cannot share, but yeah, there's like a lot of stuff that I think people are going to be excited about that I guess we'll hear soon. And we also don't know all the details. So I'm also excited to see like what exactly they will announce. But yeah, either way, there's definitely a lot more coming in the expansion. And this is like exactly what we alluded to earlier with like, for example, extra systems, extra progression, extra complexity, right? So this is obviously coming in the expansion. And I think anyone who assumes otherwise is just kind of like not really thinking enough, I guess, about what is going to happen in an expansion, right? As Rex said, they are reworking a lot of stuff. So
when it comes to reworking, Meg also touched on this a little bit. After seeing Spiritborn, I was actually a little bit shocked. I was like, okay, when I saw this, not only from a build maker perspective, but also just from someone who wants to log in and play the game, I was like, why do I want to play a different class than this? Like, what is the incentive going to be for me logging onto something else? Now, quite sure the developers are aware of that. What do you guys think? Are they going to? Rex, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, I didn't
Okay.
interrupt.
Are they going to get the other classes up to par? And how quickly do you think is that going to happen?
Yeah, so I mean, I think everyone is, and I don't know, I could be wrong. Like, October could come and the statement I'm about to make could be completely wrong. And I don't know anything on this. I don't have insider info that's contributing to this. This is all just my own personal feelings, I'm not worried about the other classes at all, man. Cool. The Spiritborn is an awesome class. It's very, very cool. They've clearly put a lot of work into it. I don't think for 1 second they're going to leave behind the other classes. It would not surprise me if one of the other classes, I mean, Barb has ruled the world for so long. It wouldn't be surprise me if Barb is still the strongest class on the expansion. I think there's a 0% chance that the other classes are just going to get left behind. They will continue to get cool stuff. There's a huge difference between will the classes be at the level of the Spiritborn, and how does it feel? Well, the Spiritborn feels really good. It's new, it's shiny, tons of cool mechanics. So it gives you this illusion that it's better, but I don't think for 1 second that Blizzard is just turning a blind eye to the other classes. I think that's a 0% chance.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. So it's so easy to just kind of like make new builds, introduce some new uniques. They are reworking a lot of uniques now for Season 5. That alone will probably open up a lot of things that currently exist or maybe don't even exist yet. And suddenly, existing classes already have like, let's say a dozen plus kind of like, meta builds, I guess, some better than others. But, there's like certain ways to build, like let's say a Bloodthirst, certain ways to build Bloodlands and so on. Some of them are weak. But that is just like a tuning issue. And if they actually go back and rescale the entire game, bring like a new baseline of balance that we have seen with like the stat squish that is happening. So, they've lowered the numbers, the DPS is lower on the weapons, and we have lower levels now and so on. So it seems like they're kind of trying to bring stuff down a bit to earth, but still trying to make like really cool and interesting effects that then you can build off of. And yeah, as they talked about, if they add more systems on top of that, then there's like an extra layer that kind of like branches out the builds, right? And then maybe you don't just have this one way of building a Bloodsurge Necro, but you have like the minion version, you have the non-minion version, you have the one with uniques, you have the one without, you have the one with whatever, right? And that's just Bloodsurge. And in the end, I guess they're definitely going back to this whole like idea of play your way kind of thing that I think they've been advertising at the start of D4. It's like open, a lot of choices. And yeah, of course, over time, the meta has kind of like, crystallized with, the best versions of a Bloodsurge build or the best version of a Twisting Blades build or whatever. But ultimately, there are still like all these like little choices you can make on the way if you want to. And the more persistence we get, the more of those choices you can make and definitely diverge from, the standard, settled meta and make something cool and unique, even for the existing classes.
Y'all are crazy. The only thing that's going to make you go back to playing the classes you've been playing before is feeling bad about buying cosmetics for them and feeling like you wasted your money. No. So I want to use an example here because everybody's going to. I know. I'm making a joke. Everybody who has played new classes to a game, that class is always going to enjoy the privilege of being designed in a space with everything that they've learned up until that point. We only now are getting basic skill builds because people felt bad about needing to put points into basic skills. And oddly enough, when the game first came out, Blizzard expected you to have a resource generator and a resource spender. That was boring. On the Spiritborn, and this is something that I commented on, which was like, your basic skill is good and it has a combo and it has a payoff and it initiates a system and empowers you. I almost didn't know what skill I was clicking, because I was using my basic skill into my spender, into my activated cooldown, into my basic skill, into my ultimate, into my spender, into my basic. Like, it was a perpetual flow of combat. And that's going to feel really, really good. But oddly enough, when the Assassin and the Druid were added to Diablo 2, people kept playing the Sorceress. Why? Because they liked being able to play the Sorceress, what it had available to it. They were comfortable on it. People like to feel good at what they're doing, and they want to feel like they're being efficient or effective. So people who pick up the class and it's too 5-head, it's too Giga Chad, there's too much stuff going on, they don't understand how to do the combos, they'll go back to a more simplified but enjoyable play style. People who have been like desperately trying to play like a really combo focused rogue and didn't feel like that was necessarily available for them, they're going to enjoy this play style. Anybody who's ever played a Necromancer will just delete all of their previous characters because they'll only be playing the Spiritborn because it actually feels good and it moves fast and it does cool stuff. Rest in peace to my class. But like, it isn't the end all be all. But yes, it's going to be fun. Yes, you're going to see everybody play it. Yes, you're going to get sick and tired of the Spiritborn meta. You're going to hate only seeing build guides about it. but it's like a brand new thing coming in expansion. Obviously, everybody wants to play with a new toy, and it's just the hype will die down, and it'll get back to a normal distribution of people's desired aesthetic in a high fantasy RPG like this.
Yeah, I'm also like you guys touched upon this a little bit here as well with the combo and build potential. Like there's what's the name? Combined strikes. I have that open right here. Each different basic skill you cast increases all of your damage by a certain number for 10 seconds. So not only are you getting a basic attacks build right from the get-go, but you're also getting a multiple basic attacks right from the get-go. And I've seen, for example, Woody's complete screen-filling AoE feathers build. That was already very interesting. How are you guys feeling about the 5-head almost necessary to get something going on the Spiritborn? Has anyone tried even experimenting with a single spirit? Or have you always thought I need to have double spirits to actually unleash the full potential of the class? And how did you feel about the complexity that this class brings in terms of making the build? Maybe Rex, you start us out with on that one.
So I think the complexity is just right, as we spoke about earlier. I think the complexity for everything else has been too low at this point. I'll tell you one thing that I'm specifically staying away from is when I got back, yes, people recorded videos of all the skills, all the passives. They went through the armory, this and that. They're missing the build defining uniques. But that is enough to get started to try to do like a single spirit or try to make some builds. I think that this is a complete waste of time. I think it's time that you have thrown straight into the garbage, because the build that we saw, I mean, we were sitting there at the lunch table with Bjorn, Spirit Bjorn, the guy who designed the class. First of all, not only are we testing several build iterations early, there's a lot of things that we just haven't seen. So you're like trying to assemble like a Lego house with like only 5 of the 50 pieces, and you don't even have the right 5 pieces. They've actually been interchanged out. So conceptually, it's very cool. I think there will be certain benefits to going all one spirit, especially with some of the uniques that they describe that we can't talk about right now. We'll see how it plays out in the actual patch. But I think it's way too early to be theory crafting. You can, I guess, familiarize yourself with your class, but any conclusions that you draw right now will be pretty much completely worthless.
Rex, are you calling out the top 5 best Spiritborn builds videos that are inevitably going to be creeping out over the next 5 days? Don't do them like that, man.
People got to eat, I guess, but why someone would click the video and process it and think that that's actually going to be the guide on launch is beyond me, man.
Hold on, I gotta go into my
I
YouTube
think
video
it's
real
not
quick.
Rex was wrong. Top 5 Spiritborn build right there.
I mean, to be fair, I think this is not just the fault of the person clicking on the video. So, making such videos, I don't know, I haven't seen any of those. But it definitely gives me flashbacks of the open beta back in like last March or something, and for like the fall launch. And people making those like videos of like, okay, best build for Rogue, best build for Druid, or whatever, right? With like level 25. Yeah, and it's kind of like we're in a similar situation, right? Exactly as Rax has said, you can familiarize yourself with the class, you can try to understand the combos, the aspects. Like, there's certainly, like, there's also something that I disagree with heavily with Rax, which I think this is not wasted time. If I look back at pre-launch, when I was just like sitting here like 12 hours a day, devouring information about Diablo 4 for like, a year straight, basically, while I was still blasting a little bit of D3 or so. That certainly helped me when the game came out. I knew every skill by heart. I knew every single skill tree.
That's
I knew
because
the
they
only
didn't
aspects.
change anything.
No, it's just like, no, but the point is that this actually helped me tremendously to actually get into the game once we had the full launch, to quickly understand, okay, how does the Paragon impact it and the glyphs, and how do I make the paths on the Paragon boards? And at least from my perspective, I actually have a blast right now trying to theory craft a Spiritborn, even though it's like, 2.5 months away and we have only seen level 30. But, just like this whole understanding that you get of the general idea of the class And we talked about, okay, you can mix and match, you can do pure builds. That was the original question. And the answer is definitely yes, right? You can do pure builds. But on the other hand, we don't know what comes later. Is there going to be enough power behind it? Maybe you can do pure builds until, I don't know, you're kind of like in like, let's say, pit 100, right? And then if you wanted to go the extra mile to like pit 140, then you might have to switch out the build and make it more complex or something. But either way, I think from the theory crafting perspective, it's very interesting right now. I've already just sat there. I had like 2 12-hour flights. I sat there, not doing anything but looking at the Spiritborn, in my flights and trying to understand, the skill tree, trying to learn every single passive. And it's just really fun doing that. And I think this will not be wasted time, even if some stuff is changing, the numbers are going to be tweaked, something is going to get nerfed. Yeah, who knows, right? But I think it's just very useful. So for the preparation of when the game actually comes out, because no one is going to know anything. No one has seen the Paragon and probably won't. And, the interesting part about it is the first week, for example, right? When everyone is going to blast the Spiritborn, who is going to make the best builds? Who is going to make those guides? And those are the people that will be the best prepared, that will understand everything really quickly because they have, put in the hours beforehand. If you just start on launch, then you're not going to have a clue. You have to learn all the basics that I already learned 4 months ago, basically. So I think it's going to be very exciting to see what's going to happen on that end. But from the theory crafting perspective, it's really cool.
I think we could take the less hyperbolic stance that Rax was putting out there. It's more so calling out this concept of making declarative statements about what this class is going to look like when the game releases, and then holding the universe accountable for those declarative statements. Nobody knows what the best build is going to be. So somebody says this is definitely going to be the best build, take it with a grain of salt, and that grain of salt being that person cannot be correct. As such, when we walk into the game and it turns out that build isn't that good, don't then turn around and get mad at the devs oh, this was supposed to be great. The numbers that I saw were super big. Why is it different? Well, it's because the stuff that we saw was outdated. To Woody's point, everybody's going to be theory crafting this thing, and he is completely correct. Even if we walk into the game and it's whatever the attack is, this attack, they changed it so that the multiplier is smaller, or the base damage is smaller, or this effect has a minimized size, or whatever, they add an element to it. It doesn't really matter what the change is. You at least had an idea of what it was before, and now you can say with that understanding, I can then formulate an opinion about how good this thing will be. Let me go test that. But so this was a long segue, but or it was a long trip away from the original question. Will there be pure builds? I think there obviously will be, right? But when you really look at the system of the Spirit Hall, you have your primary spirit that gives you your primary spirit's bonus and says all your skills are now this skill type. All your skills are now Gorilla. All your skills are now Big Burb. All your skills are now Godzilla Centipede. The secondary one tends to have a flavorful augment to what that kind of idea is. So the big monkey says you can now have more resolve. Resolve says as long as you have a stack of it, you have 20% DR. And you could have more stacks of it. And if you have a certain number of them, you're now unstoppable. You don't need to use monkey powers to get resolve. You don't have to use the monkey spirit to get it. But it kind of feeds into the original concept, but modifies your things more fully. The thing that I saw was that I always felt better using a secondary spirit to augment what I was doing, because the primary spirit that I was using was lacking that ability. So the Burb gives you ramping critical strike chance until you crit, right? That's that one. It gives you ramping critical strike chance until you crit, and then you have 100% crit chance for 2 seconds. That one feels really good for leveling. It feels really good to be able to put onto a build that maybe doesn't have access to as much crit chance. But I don't see me going Bird primary, Bird secondary, because it doesn't really add to what the primary Bird skills are attempting to accomplish. But I don't think there's realistically pure skills, only because if you look at any other class right now and you go, if I could add any skill tag to this that I wanted, would I use it on my build instead of what I'm currently doing? And the answer is typically yes. So I don't know. People are going to make them. I think that they'll be obviously weaker because they don't have access to as many tools as they could.
Before we move on to the next topic, obviously every time the Spiritborn comes up, feel free to talk about it. Your favorite spirit or spirit combination after actually getting your hands on maybe at the top of your head, Rex, you already know one?
The
There's one
and
right
it's
answer.
not because this one was just kind of the ruler of the demo that we played, but I think the one that I like the most is the Centipede. I really like the idea of just poisoning and slowing and manipulating everything around me. It kind of feels like you enter the room and you're like the king of the jungle kind of there. I think that one. I think the eagle looks the best, like the little feather throwing with the blue lights flying everywhere. It just looks incredible. I think the demo didn't do the Jaguar justice. Like, it's probably going to be that's one of people's favorites. It's got the massive attack speed. It was just so underpowered. I was just hitting the bosses over and over and over, and I'm like, well, I could just summon a centipede and one shot these guys. I think the gorilla is going to be incredible for hardcore. There's something very satisfying running around just doing big smash and nothing can kill you. Very, very satisfying. I'm still going to stick with the centipede, though, after the inevitable balance thing and nerf it. That's what I'm leaning toward starting as. I like the manipulation that it brings.
Woody, how about you?
Yeah, I kind of resonate with that. Like, just from the theme and like just the uniqueness of the centipede stuff, I really like it the most. It also has like this whole poison stuff that we are used to from the rogues, so obviously I like that. And also, like, these kind of interesting new mechanics. For example, they combined poison with thorns, that are combined poison with crits. So there's like really unique new mechanics that's coming to the Spiritborn that you can try to play around. But also, like, personally, my favorite skill on the entire class is actually Stinger. That's the centipede like core skill. And the way that works is that it's just like a slam on the ground, very uneventful actually, but it hits everything on the screen that has any poison on them. So it's kind of like extending its reach to exactly the targets that you have already dealt damage to, basically. And it felt really fun to play around that. So I'm looking forward to that. You kind of walk into the room, you do your whatever poison attack. There's multiple ways of doing that. And then you just like Stinger, slam the ground. And that actually works. And that's kind of funny. I like that. For the race, though, I guess when it comes to like actually prepping and like what I know right now, I would probably play mostly Eagle themed, because I think Eagle is probably going to like kind of scale the speed the most. Thanks to the mobility and thanks to the core skill, the Quill Volley. That seems very powerful. So this is currently what I'm aiming for, at least when it comes to like, starting out in the expansion and just like blasting to max level and stuff.
There is a correct answer, and it is Big Winton. It is Big Boy Boss Man Monkey Winton. They just added Winston from Overwatch to the game. He even summons a protective circle around you, and he looks badass, and it's just awesome. More realistically, I think that if we're talking about what will be the best thing to start off with, just based off of the tools that it currently has, very much so like Bird Primary with a lot of the mobility from Jaguar, and then just like slotting in the survivability from using like a poison basic says to me that you can just focus on doing primary damage, and even just like the life leech and the DR from using centipede skills is like enough to basically handle survivability across the board. There's just so much. You said that Jaguar underperformed, which like for single target DPS against bosses, I agree with that, definitely. The thing where I felt like Jaguar was insane was in Helltide. The Jaguar ultimate, for people who didn't really see it, you jump to the location, it does a damage attack. You have a 15% chance while your Jaguar is out that if you kill a monster with anything, it resets your ultimate cooldown. And then the next time that you jump, it does twice as many attacks, so it stays around for longer. And then when it resets, you do 3 times as many, stacking up to 4. So as long as you manage to kill a monster in an increasing time frame that your mobility / damage skill is working, it will reset and you can do it again. And that was insane. It was like the highest mobility. I just jumped out with my ultimate, kept moving forward, attacking monsters. It reset. I jump out with my ultimate again, just like time and time again. And that was nutty. I think that that's going to like hilariously overperform if nothing has really changed.
Macro is living the life, man. After playing
It's
Necro
so
for a year.
But like,
I'll tell you.
But seriously, like to that point though, like all of the mobility other than Soar was in Jaguar, because it had like 2 or 3 different mobility skills on top of the fact that your basic is also a lunging strike. Like, it was kind of gross.
We'll have to see how it again, like how it all changes. Like I haven't like looked at any of the connections or the synergies in depth at the moment. But when I was sitting there looking at how it was built and some of the different combinations that were possible, I have a little bit of fear for the centipede builds. Like the centipede as the main one. And the reason why is it seemed like a lot of things would activate or a lot of things would be available to you if the enemies were poisoned.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, so is it going to be better to go jaguar, gorilla, eagle, something like that, and just simply find a very clever way to poison things? And if they're like, I was even thinking like, oh, what about like Andariels, for example? Does Andariels shoot out poison? Does that count as poison? And then am I going to unlock all of these other things? If someone else in my party poisons, then can I get all of these benefits from poison without actually speccing into poison? And if that becomes the thing, if there isn't at least one build that really rewards you from diving deep into poison, I'm a little bit worried about like the centipede centric builds. So that's something I'm going to be. It's something I'm going to be looking for. If on the launch, if I get all these awesome passives, it kind of reminds me of like some of the sorcerer passives, right? If they're burning, you would be willing to take the firebolt enchantment slot just to make your attacks burn, just to take these passives because they're burning, but the burning doesn't have anything to actually do with, 75% of the builds. I'm wondering if we're going to fall into that trap again with Spiritborn, where what's the easiest way to apply poison to the whole room, take all these passives, and then I play something else.
Is that So I agree. I hate when it's too simple. That's actually probably like one of my biggest first time playing the build critiques of the Spiritborn. I think it's actually too easy to figure out the puzzle. Like your Spirit Hall says all of your skills now have this skill tag. Any other class to do that typically has to use an entire aspect slot to change a single skill to do this one different thing to activate this sub system of benefits. I think the Spiritborn is kind of like built almost too well. Like it's too synergistic. But let's say it doesn't lead to like insane power. How cool is it that Andariel's Visage activates an entire subsystem of your build? That you don't now need to spec into poison skills, but instead can use this uber unique to fundamentally change it. That's ultimately, I think, a very cool thing. The concern would be if that's just like too over dominant in the meta, right? Like that would be the problem, not just the reality of it, right? Or do you think it's just like bad if it does that altogether?
No, I mean, I literally live for interactions like that, and I'm even more okay with it because of the fact that it's an uber unique. I love stuff like that. Like there's no better feeling. Like you can see it in all these different games. There's no better feeling than when you're playing Diablo 2 and you get that jaw rune to drop, and now you have an enigma and it feels completely different. Or when you drop the mage blood or the headhunter in PoE, and life is actually just completely different from there forward.
Mm-hmm.
If you get an Andariels, it unlocks this ultimate build where you get all the poison stuff essentially for free and you go the other spirits and now you're just frying. I've got nothing wrong with that. The nature of my comment was not that I don't like that happening. It's that I'm afraid for centipede-centric builds. So I guess the main takeaway that I'm trying to deliver here is I hope that in the design, in the end game, that there is a reward for going very, very heavy into the poison. Because if it just turns into a stupid put the firebolt enchantment slot, take all the burning stuff, and burning never matters, we've lost an entire archetype that could have been there that would have been one of my favorites.
I think
Gotcha.
it's like way
Thank
too
you.
early to really talk about this level of detail here with the builds. Like personally, and after looking at all the stuff that I explained earlier, like I don't think there's anything wrong or anything to worry about here with the poison builds. They do seem like to have very strong scaling in the late game, and there might be also ways to just play like a supportive poison, kind of like firebolt on a Sorc, but there might also be ways to like pure poison with or without Andariels, and I have no worries about it. So I guess the rest is just like tuning on like some aspects or some skills that really matter there. That can always be changed.
Yeah, I can definitely see both sides to that. Andariel's Visage comment, what was, Woody, you probably know this, what was that helm that was also giving you the other tag on top of that would directly
It's called Harmony.
Harmony, there we go.
Yeah.
That's directly fighting against that helmet slot against Andariel's, right? So we would kind of already have a solution or kind of like an alternative to that mythic in the future. I hope that's going to give another solution to Andariel's, right? It's maybe not as strong, but maybe just get that build for the people that don't have access to mythic uniques earlier on, an option to play that build that
Honestly,
you can
this
hopefully
Harmony
play in the end.
unique helm, yeah, it seems very crazy. Just like looking at like from the perspective of what we know about uniques right now, looking at season 5 uniques, for example, that we have seen like a few previews of. Like looking at this Harmony helm, so basically what it does is it gives you an extra skill tag based on your minor spirit hall. So you can now have 3 different animal spirit tags on, and you get I think 50% extra bonus damage for each tag. So you guys get like a insane amount of damage multiplier on your helm. Plus it has pretty decent stats, it looks like. So it seems like something like that is clearly outperforming something like Shaco and Andariel or so anyway, unless you specifically make a build around Andariel's, I guess, which may or may not happen. But it definitely looks like some very powerful item, and it's fine. They can like include some powerful uniques, and we have seen some other uniques that I've previewed. For example, the basic attack stuff, like we talked about, or like Macro mentioned this earlier. There's like the built-in combo potential already for the basic attacks, and now they also make like an item that actually allows you to play like a pure like a basic attack build right from the get-go, right? If you get that stuff, then or like the squatter stuff, then you can make that basic attack build right from out of the box, basically, that, for example, we previously didn't have until like very recently in Diablo 4, where basic attacks were just always useless in terms of DPS, with some exceptions maybe. And now we're gonna get delivered a package of, okay, you can play this core skill and this core skill and this one. And also there's like these other bunch of skills, and there's also different ways of scaling each of them. And there's also all these basic attacks that you can either use as a supporting skill or as a pure DPS skill. And then you can probably play each of those basic attacks as a, build defining skill, right? So it seems like there's like just so many build options that come out of the box with the Spiritborn based on what they have learned in the past 4 seasons. And I think that's really amazing. Like if you're going to launch, and it's going to be like, 50 different versions of all kinds of builds. And I think it's going to be really cool.
Yeah, I think everyone agrees that we're really looking forward to that part and exploring that and actually getting the hands on. I'm very curious how long the line at Gamescom is actually going to be. I'll definitely try to get there early and see if I can somehow get in front of the line there and get my hands on the Spiritborn to play that as soon as that's the case. For the next topic, the co-op endgame activity and our wishes or ideas for that. We have briefly talked about it in the past about the raids and stuff like that. I wanted to get your ideas or wishes for the co-op endgame activity here. Have you thought about it more in detail about it being mandatory to have other players in the group or co-op being a mandatory factor here? And what are your ideas? Do we go more into the World of Warcraft raiding section where it's like where you need to do a couple of things right and then you're good? Or do we go into the Lost Ark section where you have to know 10 billion interactions by heart and hopefully do them in the correct order? What are your wishes or ideas going into the co-op endgame activity, whatever that is going to be in the future when the Vessel of Hatred expansion releases?
I have breaking news that's going to drastically change everybody's opinion on this thing. I went into the emotes thinking that I would find cool new emotes and I'd be able to show them off on stream, like cool new effects and stuff. And there's a whole section of your emotes all the way on the right that have whatever it's called, like Citadel marker icons that you're able to add onto your fast wheel, meaning that like theoretically you're going to have to, just like in WoW, like indicate in real time targets or objectives or different things. They were like different colors and they just kind of looked like a star. There wasn't like, the the teal square and the moon and the heart and all of that, or the skull. But the reason why I think that that's interesting, and obviously like there's only 5 people who are like, oh, cool. I like the concept that they believe that players will need tools to be able to communicate in game, to be able to accomplish whatever tasks or whatever you're doing in the raid. I don't have so much like, oh, this is what I hope it is, this is what I hope it is, because whatever it is going to be drastically different because, you know, they have to fit it into an ARPG. But I really want to touch on that question of, is it okay that this completely online multiplayer game has content that has the audacity to say you need to play in a group? Is that okay? I actually think it's wild that we would even be having that conversation, honestly. The multiplayer game has to have at least something that groups do, because why else am I even playing a multiplayer game? Like, sincerely. I get that we want to have a parity between single player and group play. I'm not disagreeing with that concept. But at some point, it's got to be okay, and we don't have to like clutch our pearls that there's multiplayer content in this multiplayer game.
Yeah. So, for me, when I look at, so I've done a lot of rating in different games, and so I'll tell you something from Lost Ark that I don't like, and I'll tell you something from WoW that I do like, and then some other things about the endgame activity. So, for Lost Ark, there is a crazy level of toxicity in the Lost Ark rating unless you have a set group. It's actually unreal. So you queue up for a boss. You have however many it is, 8 people. They'll kick you out if you are not the right base. And then when you get in there, then you have to like all agree to fight the boss or all agree to leave. And there's lockouts and things like this. And when you have 8 people like random and you're trying to explain things, the level of toxicity when you wipe like once or twice, even if someone says, I've never been here before, let me learn, is crazy. So I would hope in whatever system Blizzard has for like how you can leave and how you can complete the bosses, they've taken a look at how it feels to be a normal player trying to do these in Lost Ark. And as the difficulty ramps up, so does the toxicity. That's something that I'm hoping to avoid. One thing that I really like that World of Warcraft did, which enables you to use, one of your questions was, do you care like how simple it is, or do you care how complex it is? I like what World of Warcraft does, where you have like normal and heroic versions, where everybody can experience the content. It's not as difficult. And then, I don't know, the Uber Diablo in the final level of heroic rating or whatever the hell it's called, I think it should be damn near impossible if you want to clear it on heroic. And you need like a team, a really, really good teams synergize, play very well for multiple minutes to win. That would be kind of my dream. So there's something that I'm hoping for, and something that I'm hoping that they avoid.
Yeah, from my perspective, usually I play a lot of like solo self-found with like the occasional grouping for like, you know, boss rotations and stuff. But I'm just like more of a solo guy these days, I guess, when it comes to RPGs. And personally, I don't like the outlook too much that this is like only a group system. Actually, someone in my chat said that during Rax's interview, it was confirmed it can be soloed. Is that true? So
I asked them the question. I'm not sure if they 100% confirmed it, but I brought up the fact that we definitely need it to be, or I would really like it to be soloable. I don't know if they gave us a 100%. Okay, my chat is saying that yes, he 100% confirmed it.
Okay, wonderful.
So there we go. So that's kind of interesting, because usually if you have like, you know, it's just kind of like, you know, let's imagine like a WoW raid, right? There's like big bosses and there's a bit of trash in between, and then you have to do like play mechanics, you have to be in certain places at certain times with multiple people and whatever, right? And okay, and like in WoW they have like this scaling system of like, okay, you can have 20 people, 15 people, whatever, at least for the non-mythic difficulties. But in Diablo, it's kind of strange because you don't have anything like that, right? You don't have any very complex bosses where you have to coordinate and these kind of things. And I think it would be kind of like a kind of novelty here to actually make like a forced 4-player raid where you need to have, you know, at least for most fights, right? You know, some people doing certain things while other people doing other things. And if you then make it soloable, then it just sounds like, okay, we're gonna get like a bunch of punching bags again as bosses. That, okay, you play around some of the big hits and the mechanics or whatever, but there's nothing like, you know, strategic too much behind it. But maybe they're gonna surprise me. So on the one hand, yeah, I would like it to be soloable, and I guess it sounds very nice. On the other hand, for example, they're introducing mercenaries, and mercenaries could be kind of like the equivalent of like a party, for example, for that system. Maybe it's like, you know, less useful than like having a real player. But for example, if you have multiple difficulty tiers, then you could say, okay, you know, for the easy tiers, at least you can do that, and you still have this whole like mechanical group play basically. But either way, I'm kind of excited what they're cooking. I think it could be really amazing. Yeah, I personally love like fighting big bosses, and you know, if there's like enough to it, then this can be really fun. Even if it's like just like another, you know, mega dungeon. You know, I have this picture in mind of like Naxxramas from WoW. You know, they have like this 4 wings. There's like 3 bosses in each wing, and then you unlock the extra boss at the end or something. Like if you do something like that, and there's actually like this kind of like mega dungeon, you spend multiple hours, many hours in a week, for example, playing through it, coming back, continuing, or something like that. I don't know. This could be really amazing if there's like badass boss fights. I think it all depends on the tuning in the end. I think.
One thing that I'll say, kind of in Blizzard's defense, I guess, is I would not envy being the developer of that system. Because I think unless you do an extremely good job, the solo people can come in, and it works for casuals, and it works for the blasters, and it's challenging, and it's rewarding, and it fits in perfectly. I think people are going to complain. I think they're going to have to get a lot of things very, very. Hi, Callie. I see you. Yes, I played with you twice already. How many times do you have to play? I think I do not envy their position. I would not want that job. So I'm going to try to keep that in mind when it comes out. If it's even decent, I'll give them big credit, because I think that this game mode is going to have a bullseye on it, and I think I can just see the complaining from months away.
To that exact point, like I want to use Infernal Hordes as like our newest cultural touch point. They put out this new roguelite system. It immediately got like a ton of backlash. 1, like it wasn't good enough. 2, it took too long. 3, it felt like it wasn't like interesting enough. Like it wasn't challenging. But on the other side, it felt like you couldn't do it on certain builds. And you know, based off the conversation that we had with them, from the season 5 PTR, it's getting a pretty sizable overhaul to like how valuable is it for the player's time. And when Moody just said, what if it's a raid that you do over the span of the week, you come in, you progress it a little bit further, you get to this checkpoint, you get to this boss, like could we see something like that in Diablo 4? Made me incredibly excited. I've been saying for a very long time, I wish that this was World of Diablo, and I get mocked in everybody else's chat every single time. That doesn't change how I feel. It's 2024. We're playing an always online multiplayer game. Everybody wishes that world bosses were more challenging and more interesting, and you show up with a random group of people and you can't really talk to each other. Like you can't really be toxic to each other. But everybody's like, it's like not engaging enough and the rewards aren't good enough, and I don't feel like I'm having a cool experience. The moment that this content comes out and people start having the reaction of like, whatever, just like absolutely shitting on it because it had the audacity to try something different in an ARPG, I also would not envy them. And I'm good, as long as it's good and they're trying to make it engaging and interesting, I'm going to be on the front lines of like, shut up and just play the game and just enjoy something for once in your life. Because like this could be heinously cool, and it would just be sick to do something else in an ARPG other than clear an entire screen with 1 attack.
Yeah, I think it's also. I think it's okay. I think it's also really like I'm 100%. I agree on this. I mean, we see it in all the other RPGs. Yeah, Path of Exile has iterated on their systems for the past 10 years or so. Every time they bring something out, they give us something. Well, it's 50-50. It might be cool, it might be awful, but then again, after like a week or so, it's fixed, it's playable at least, then it goes away, they work on it in the background, and then they present it to you, and it's suddenly awesome, and you can't even remember how it was playing without it. And I really like that Blizzard is moving towards and Diablo is moving towards. Try it out, see how it works, and then iterate on it and make it better. Look at Helltide. Where did we start with Helltide? Where is Helltide now? I think everyone here loves Helltide at this point. I am having a blast in Helltide, and I just hope that it's going to be the same concept where we try out something and then improve it over the course of the time is also going to happen with the raids. Obviously, it's going to take its time, but I'm very much looking forward to something that Woody said as well. I really just want something where I can maybe solo it and have a completely different experience in terms of the difficulty than when I choose to do it with 3 or in maybe even 7 other people for a total of 4 or 8 groups. Maybe there's going to be some sort of difficulty selection tool, and maybe it's the party size, right? Maybe if you go in solo, well, you can't be at same spots at the same time. You can't go and take the cube and put it on the pedestal while also tanking one slam on the other side of the arena, right? But as soon as you go and do that with 2 or 3 or 4 people, maybe that is going to increase the difficulty, not in terms of numbers, but in terms of complexity of the mechanics, right? I hope we're moving into some sort of that direction. And I also said this multiple times already. I do not envy them in their current situation because everyone has high expectations, and I don't know how to meet at only half of them, right? It's going to be a very tough balance.
I guess the main thing to kind of remember here is that, we have the option to introduce difficulty settings, right? There's like tiers of the pit, there's tiers of Nightmare Dungeons, or whatever, world tiers. And, you can just make it accessible similar to WoW raids, where you have like, you have like 4 or 5 different difficulties, and there's just something for everyone, right? And some people will slowly progress through the higher difficulties with their guild, and it can be similar to that as well. I mean, why not, right? So maybe there's like some, hyper difficult mode where you try it solo, basically, just by, virtue of not having extra people that do damage and do stuff while you're busy doing other stuff. But yeah, I mean, maybe you can solo like, the heroic version, but you can't solo the mythic version. But I guess what it comes down to is like, what do we get out of it? And as long as there's, maybe if it's like, let's say a weekly lockout, let's say, right, like the bonus reward from world bosses, we already have that kind of, right? It's nothing big, but it's nice. You go there, you kill a world boss the first time in the week, you get some extra goodie, like, why not? And if it's somewhere along those lines where it's like not mandatory to even do it at all, for example, or at least not mandatory to clear it on the highest difficulty, maybe just like, getting less nuts out of it, or, you progress a bit slower or whatever, right? I think that would be fine. Then you can, potentially make the highest difficulty of it like crazy if you want. Just literally like, a trophy clear, so to say, that doesn't maybe add more rewards to it. And then you kind of like stagger the rewards down a little bit with the difficulties, and there you go.
Do we think that the D4 community has responded well when they've added trophy content? Like our examples are Abattoir of Zir tier 25 and currently pit 200. I think that now that we've been in the pit for long enough, the community in general has like found out that like not every single build is meant to do every single thing. Not every single player is meant to clear all content. But do you think that we would respond well to, oh, if I do my weekly clear on hyper heroic mythic level, I get a chance at a cool pet, because now pets are in the game, right? Like they could basically just add pets to everything. It could be you clear this, you get the cool angel halo pet, whatever. Do you think people will take that well if they feel like they can't do that in a solo fashion? Like, do you think they would ask the devs to capitulate and change it?
Yeah, I actually asked that question because I had a lot of trouble understanding why they nerfed tormented bosses by 30% HP. And I was for a long time trying to get to the root cause of that problem, or why everyone was complaining that they weren't able to kill the tormented bosses.
It's a very simple explanation.
What is it, Woody?
You're gonna get to it? No. I mean, yeah, it's because it's the season's journey.
Yes, exactly. It's people said I don't care about the tormented bosses, but I need to kill them for my seasonal journey. And that was that as the chat was like, yes, I only do them because of seasonal journey. For me, I don't even know what the seasonal journey is. I complete it or don't. It's not present for me. But I think if it becomes mandatory even in that sense of a seasonal journey, then people have a problem with it when they can't defeat it or complete it. So even if you attach a pet to it, that's basically also almost kind of the seasonal journey, or is it not?
So, all
It
right.
is.
Okay. So there's a lot of like philosophical ideas here. So when you make this like pinnacle content, like I think as you and Woody are alluding to, if you put it as part of the basic little journey that people need to do to get their reward every season, that's not a very smart idea, right? Because a lot of people can't do that. So that's fine. But a different philosophy that I've kind of heard a little bit of this as a content creator in different games, which makes no sense, is people say, I don't want to try and I don't want to play very much and I want to get everything. This doesn't work in video games, just like it doesn't work in anything in life, right? If you want to be an Olympic skier, the only way you become an Olympic skier is by skiing 10 hours a day for 15 straight years. And then they say, no, Rax, you're the one who doesn't get it. I play games for fun, so I don't have to train to be an Olympic skier. And I
Sure.
say, okay, so you're a game designer. Let's flip the script here. If you're designing a game and the difficulties ramp up, how would you design it so there isn't an additional reward for doing the higher difficulties, or at the minimum, at least a leaderboard? And then the response I get is, Rax, I don't care about that argument. I want everything for nothing. Not everybody says this, but a lot of people believe this. The simple fact of the matter is, there needs to be an incentive or a reward or chase items to try for. However they want to build that system is fine. If Blizzard says, we don't want to lock these certain uniques to the Uber bosses because then casuals can't make the build, fine. Okay, I could go with that. But then they better do something like Macro said, where if you kill Uber Diablo on the hardest version, he has a 1 in 100 chance to drop himself as a pet. You have mini Uber Diablo as a pet. So, or something, or a title, or a mount that isn't an ugly, bloody horse, which is the same horse that you get for PvPing for 5 minutes. There needs to be an incentive. There needs to be a chase for all players. It's not just for the blasters. Sometimes putting in chase items can take a very casual player to whatever you want to call it, an average player, or an average player to a blaster, some kind of carrot on a stick to chase for. I am so sick of the arguments about I want everything for nothing on the easiest difficulty and I better have the same odds as everything. I think it's just complete nonsense.
We're just like we're swinging at a lot of people in the community here, but it is inherently true in a game that the purpose of it is to give near endless chase and personal feelings of progression. World of Warcraft is a great example. There was the Insane title. You don't know somebody who had the Insane title. I was one of the many people who, it literally took me so long working on the Insane title that before I got it, they nerfed it so that it was easier to get the Insane title, and then I stopped caring about it entirely. I spent like a year working on this thing. It required you to get like every single reputation up to Exalted, which required you to have 2 opposing factions both at Exalted, and the only way to accomplish that was to sit in Booty Bay and farm this one particular NPC who had a very long spawn time, because the negative impact from killing it outweighed the positive, or the positive outweighed the negative. It was insane. I worked on it for a year. It was like one of the coolest things I was going to accomplish after the Seeker, and whichever one was that you have to do all the quests in the game. I also did that one. But these were awesome. What did I get? A little title above my head that when I walked, I was an Alliance player, so when I was hanging out in Stormwind, everybody knew how big of a Johnson I had because I had these titles.
Alliance?
I don't know. Of course, I was playing a warlock back in the day. The only good options were either gnome or orc, or had a bonus to your pet damage. Gnome actually had bonus to your primary stat. It was the only. Leave me alone, okay? She was cool. Her name was Ula. That's a Twi'lek dancer from Jabba the Hutt's little harem palace. Look, I'm a big nerd. The point of the thing that I'm saying, though, is that while I wasn't necessarily as tuned into the discourse around World of Warcraft, I was an avid fan. There was no conversations about it's bullshit that anybody else accomplished something and they got something out of it. Like, raiding was inherently you accomplished something and you got the thing, and then you got to have the status of it. And that is important to some gamers, and I think it needs to be available in this game as well. Because at the end of the day, everybody walking around with whatever their personally transmogged gear is, without titles or cool effects or a cool pet or whatever, I don't know how cool you are, and I can't aspire to be as cool as you are because you're just walking by in random gear. And I think that's sorely lacking from Diablo 4. And I would like for them to stop making everything completely uncool that you accomplished it at the end of the day. Like, it doesn't matter that you killed a tormented boss, because of course you did. You know what I mean? Like, it's called it's a level 200 boss. It should be super